You're listening to Community Matters here on Cross Rhythms. Good morning. It's great to have you with us. Also great to have with me in the studio today from the local charity Provide Devon, Maddie Bailey. Hi, Maddie. Hi, Maddie. Let's not call you Maddie. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you, Ian. Nice to meet you.
And Maddie, tell us a bit about the charity Provide Devon. What is it and how did it all start?
So Provide Devon is a food charity. We're based in Burrington Way in Plymouth, and we can provide emergency food parcels to families or individuals that are in crisis. People get referred to us from local agencies like schools and doctors, mental health practitioners, children's centres, lots and lots of different ones. In fact, we deal at the moment in the city with 85 different referral agents. Plymouth Community Homes, Plymouth City Council, social care, that sort of thing. But the charity actually started a long time ago. Actually, back in 2015, I was running a very similar project out of the church. I'm a member at Hope Baptist Church in Plymouth, and I was made contact with our local schools to offer them that facility to have fresh food and emergency food, so families had somewhere to actually be able to feed their children that night. And it just outgrew the church, and in 2018 became its own registered charity in a unit, as I say, in Burrington Way.
So 2018, that's interesting timing with, COVID hadn't hit yet, the cost of living crisis hadn't hit yet, and things which I can imagine from the brief bit you just said that Provide Devon is really responding to. So, there was a journey of growth, wasn't there, though? Because you told me off air how you started. It was kind of small beginnings, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very small beginnings. We used to do maybe 5 parcels a week. So as I say, I probably had contact with maybe 10 or 12 local schools at that stage. 5 parcels a week, and just able to support families at that time. Now we're doing between 25 to 30 parcels a day.
And you literally started that off your own back, obviously within a church context, but you had the idea.
Yes.
What motivated you to have that idea?
Well, that's quite interesting, Ian. I was actually quite poorly. I ended up in hospital. I'm quite a busy person. I do like to keep myself busy and always have done. But God had other plans, and I did get quite poorly. I was in hospital for 10 days. I had pancreatitis, and during that time I was prayed for a lot, and I had a lot of prayer given to me. And at that time, Andrew Gardner was our minister, and I was very close to Andrew, and he was really helped me through that time. But during the time I then had, when I got home and I was convalescing, I really felt this message from God that I needed to, although I was already very involved with the Plymouth Soup Run, he wanted me to expand that service, if you like, to the families in Plymouth as well. So that's where that came from. It was definitely a God moment. It was that time that God spoke to me. I gave him that time. And maybe not going into hospital was my best way of that happening, but that's how it did. It was just during some convalescence, and that's where Provide, as it came to be called, started.
It is. Often it's in those down times, isn't it? Those times when we're laid flat, particularly if we're busy people, that we get an entry into a new season in our lives. Was it that kind of thing?
Yes,
do you think?
Absolutely. Yes, it was. It was. It was definitely that moment of calmness that I came through that just gave me that opportunity to listen, which, if we're honest, sometimes is difficult in our busy lives to hear God's voice.
And I guess with something as serious as you were actually in hospital for, because that's no small illness, is it really? That's a serious deal. Makes you think about the real values of life, makes you think about the bigger things.
Yes, and my heart has always been to serve. That's definitely where, God has always laid that on me, to serve and to do the best I can to help my fellow man, to just be as, in service. So I think, that was my opportunity to expand that, even though I had, that period of illness, that, there was more I could do.
And your life before that, was your career being mum and housewife? Did you have a career in other things? What were you doing before all of this, before the illness and before all of this started off?
I've worked in sales actually, and I was a mum and a wife. I have 2 sons, and so that was quite busy in itself. But service and helping people has always gone hand in hand. I've always done both things, really. Been, a mum, a housewife, and, served my God as best I can.
That's beautiful. Well, look, Maddie, we'll take a break for some music. We'll come back and hear some more, because I see there's a real story arc there for you're writing a story from that moment where you decide you're going to do something through to what is now a considerable piece of work that you're doing. You were telling me earlier just the scale of things that you've got going on. We'll hear some more about that with you right after this next track. Talking with Maddie Bailey from Provide Devon here on Community Matters. Don't forget, if you miss any part of the show, you can always catch us again on Listen Again at crossrhythms.co.uk/Plymouth. That's the promotional part of the thing out of the way. Right. Maddie, your journey from working this on your own, literally on your own, but within a church context, having a God idea, starting it off, to where you are now. How many years was that? Because I know 2018 you formed the charity. I missed, and I'm sorry, the year when you started the whole thing.
2015. Yes, 2015 was when, it's in its infancy, or when I started it from Hope Baptist Church, we called it Community Food Share. So that's what it was called when it was just running out of the church. But when it became its own charity, we then changed its name then to Provide Devon.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the arc from there, if you were writing the story, yourself and a few others from church, you described to me off air, you had all the food on a shelf, and it wasn't a very big shelf to start with.
It was a very small shelf. Yes, it was literally enough room to get 2 tins of beans wide, and probably, you could probably have got 10 tins of beans lengthways. So yes, it was always a challenge. It was always a challenge. But we used to buy as we needed. So I didn't really store a lot of food. And actually that's one of the other real messages that I got during my illness was don't become a storehouse.
Interesting. Don't become a
storehouse. If you are asked for food and you have the food, you give the food. I never wanted to have containers or have a massive storage. And in fact, God has proved that to me time and time again since the charity is formed. Often I look at the shelves and think, how am I going to be able to, do this X number of parcels today because the shelves are not full of food? But I always can. I always can.
There's a whole journey there for, business and manufacturing around the world works on increasing on that kind of principle where things aren't stored, they're just delivered on time as needed. And we get tons of disruptions when COVID hits kind of thing. But that's an interesting concept. But it has grown from that one shelf, hasn't it?
Oh, it has, yes. Yeah. As I say, we have this unit now that's got a stock, but not a huge amount. So there's never, if I see that we have a lot of stock, then there's an issue in my mind. Why aren't we getting the people fed? So we have got a nice big unit. We can store food now, and it is lovely to be able to have, a few crates in the background that we've got to, always top the shelves up. But, we've had some periods where the shelves have been quite empty, and that's always a worry.
And how do you, because that is the logical next question. As it's grown, how do you get increasing amounts of food and resources for people?
Well, we pray, we ask God to provide, and we are so thankful that we have some really good supporters, particularly our local co-ops. They have boxes in their shops where people can donate product to us, which is brilliant. And we do have lots of other companies that will always try and collect for us. Harvest time is always a massive blessing to us as a charity because so many schools and so many churches are willing to donate to us. So we've been really blessed this harvest time. And it is just general public, who get to hear about us, who might contact us and say, we'd like to collect some food for you.
So what does a typical working day look like now, or a working week? How many people are you helping? What's the growth curve been like? Or is there such a thing as a typical day or typical week?
There's no typical day. No, there isn't a typical day. That's a difficult one to answer, really, Ian. So, it can vary. I mean, and obviously holiday hunger is an issue for lots of families. So we do notice that has an increase. And coming up to Christmas, we do notice an increase as well as families are trying to juggle whether they're going to buy their children some presents or pay their bills or buy them some food. So we do notice sort of seasonal fluctuations as well like that. Days do vary. They are very varied. Of course, it depends on, who we get a referral in. We normally can get that parcel ready for collection within 20 minutes. So, we're working to very tight deadlines. So we're always sort of on the emails, and we're on our phone to check that, that we're responding to make sure that people are getting that food as quickly as possible.
Okay, so the referrals, can people self-refer to Provide Devon, or is it all through agencies?
No, it's only through agencies, yeah. We do that for a really specific reason. We are not experts in social care or mental health or any of the issues or debt advice. None of us as volunteers have that skill. So that's why we've only ever dealt with referral agents. That way, for a start, we know that family are being cared for. We know that somebody is actually going to that property, stepping in, giving that family that food parcel to help them. So that, for me, is a really important part. But secondly, it's knowing that there is a contact being made, and also that there is somebody who is looking out for them. If we had self-referrals, then there's no comeback on that. We keep really good stats. We know exactly how many people we're helping. We know where they live in Plymouth, only by PL5 or PL2 or PL1. We know how many people are in that family. So we've got really good stats, and we can then actually challenge that referral agent. If we see a name come up, we might say to that referral agent, I thought we'd already seen that family. What's actually happening? Are you able to help them with their particular crisis? So there's a really good feedback. It works on many levels.
So it helps things to join up then. You're really part of the fabric of support that's in the city, because there is a good fabric in the city. John Hamlin, when he was last on, I asked a question that I thought would lead him to a challenging provocation statement. I asked how, does he think that there's what does Plymouth look like in terms of provision for those that are in need? And he said, well, actually, compared to other cities, I think we don't do too badly. What would you think on that?
Yes, I would agree. I think we do. I think we do as a, I don't think many people fall through the net. I mean, there will always be people, of course, who don't want to make that connection with a service for whatever reason. But I think on the whole, we work really closely with Shekinah and with John Hamlin's team. We work closely with the Rough Sleepers team. So I personally believe that, yes, I think Plymouth does a good job. I think it's something we should be proud of.
Good. Good place to take a break for some music. We'll come back and hear some more from Maddie right after this. Maddie, you were talking about the work in Plymouth as a whole. You mentioned, and which resonated with what John Hamlin at Shekinah said, that Plymouth seems to do reasonably well in terms of provision of care. You mentioned stats as well. You track stats, postcodes. Do you see any disparity, any differences in the city, east, west, different need from different areas?
I mean, some areas there is obvious more need than in others, but on the whole, it's fairly widespread, as in, there's not one particular area I would say is worse than others. As I say, we do sort of see more around the PL5 maybe and PL4 area. That does seem to be our more prevalent postcode area that we see the need, but there's need all over the city, and we have to respond to all of that need.
Is it made up of single parent families, young children, of asylum seekers, or is it wide and varied?
All of that, wide and varied,
yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of, I've noticed as well recently, a lot more blended families, and that might be grandparents are helping out more. So they've moved in with grandparents, or two families have joined together, and that way there's a lot more children, for instance. We've had several families where there's been in excess of 5, 6, 7 children. That's a lot of people that need to be fed. But yes, on the whole, I would say we deal with all sorts. And that's the other thing that Provide is really proud of, is that we cater to all of those different cultural needs. So we do have an awareness of halal food. We have an awareness of specific diets. We always ask on our form that our referral agent gives to us, is there any specific dietary needs? And we're very proud that we can make sure that our parcels contain the correct food for all that family.
That's really good. So really caring for people and giving a bit of dignity to people's own choices. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and that's really important. That we feel that's really important, that Provide can do that we do allow that family some dignity, and that when they open that parcel, they will look at it and know that somebody's packed it with some thought and with some care, and hopefully with some of God's love as well in there. Just a sprinkling over the top.
That's beautiful, actually. That is beautiful. So, I mean, we've got Christmas coming up at the time of recording. You've mentioned that you can see a little bit more need. Sometimes there are seasonal peaks. Are you starting to experience that? Just for listeners who may be listening in spring 24, for all I know, but we're recording second week of November. Are things, maybe let's rephrase it. Are things harder this year than they were a couple of years ago, do you think?
Oh, certainly. Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt. Things are a lot harder this year. I mean, as I say, our stats are excellent, and we know we can see a significant rise on numbers of families at the moment, and we're in November, like you say. So my thought process is that by probably the first week of December, our volunteers are going to be working flat out to get families parcels. And, just to highlight, really, we are an emergency food provider. We don't do, on the whole, repeat clients, repeat families. On the whole, it will be a one-off parcel for that family. So, the fact that we're seeing an increase of numbers is really quite worrying, and the fact that more people are sort of presenting as needing that extra support. Obviously, if there's a real ongoing need, which there is many times now, we will, of course, I would never let a child go hungry, so we will, of course, do another parcel if that's needed.
Tudor Evans spoke last week at the time of recording at the City Transformation Conference organised by CTIP. And he was saying, just mentioning the increase in numbers of working people that are now struggling and actually homeless in the city. Yeah. Are you finding an increase in that working people are struggling more?
Massively so, absolutely. And a lot of our parcels are going to people who are in temporary accommodation. And that can often be a family who will be in a local hotel with just a microwave and sometimes just a kettle to feed their family. And, we will do our very best to give the food that they can use, such as, pot noodles and things that, you wouldn't really want your family to be feeding on, but it's something to give the children. But yes, I'm seeing an awful lot of that. A lot of people in temporary accommodation with very basic cooking equipment.
Not a political statement. We're not a political station. It seems odd to me that we'd spend 24 grand a year housing a family in temporary accommodation like a hotel. It's an expensive way to care for people. It
is. But like you say, we can't get into that. We just have to feed people. We just have to make sure that children don't go to bed hungry, and that's what Provide is about.
But that is the reality for some people's lives in Plymouth. That is a reality, and it's off. I think it's one. I only bring it up to say, someone like yourself, John Hamblin, your volunteers, John's volunteers, multiple agencies across the city realise that this is happening. We can miss it, and I think knowing about that stuff can help fuel our compassion. I don't know what your thoughts would be.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think, that's what people start to realise when I talk about our charity to, outsiders, or if we're invited to talk to groups, people are quite amazed sometimes that we are serving so many people within our city, and that there is such a growing need, and they're quite surprised by that. And that's either because they maybe don't listen to local news as much and they just aren't aware. And I think unless you are in this arena, then maybe people just aren't aware. But there is a massive need within our city. And, I think if everybody just bought an extra tin of beans and popped it in your local food bank basket, whoever it's for, it's all going to help.
We'll take a break for some music, Maddie, and we'll come back in here. I'd like to find out a little bit more about how we can get involved and engaged, either with Provide Devon or helpful hints you'd give us for being part of the solution in the city. So we'll hear more from Maddie right after this. Maddie, it's clearly a much needed work that Provide Devon is providing. And sadly, as John Hamblin used to say, he doesn't say it anymore, his job as a chief exec of Shekinah was to work himself out of a job, didn't want the charity to exist, but increasingly it has to. And you've said pretty much the same. The situation isn't getting any better anytime in the very near future. But you guys are there. How can ordinary people that aren't involved in the kind of work that you're doing, that maybe you're involved in all kinds of other stuff and couldn't get involved in setting something up the way that you did, how can people best help, or how can people help your charity?
Well, there's two ways. First of all, you can go onto our website and donate. Obviously, I'm buying a lot of food now at the moment because our donations have dropped off slightly. So on our website, you can donate. And obviously, we're always fundraising. We're always applying for grants. So financially is an amazing way to help us. Alternatively, we have got really good links with local co-ops, and there are lots of co-ops around the Plymouth area which have got a Provide Devon box where you can actually donate much needed items, and those are our basics like tomatoes and tinned beans and tinned soup. One of the differences with Provide Devon is that our food parcels do contain, the majority is fresh food. And that's milk and bread and cheese and eggs and fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, which of course I have to buy. So that's why financial donations are really important to our charity.
Is the fresh food part of that? I guess that's enabled and made necessary by the fact that you don't want to become a store, isn't it?
Yes, I don't want to become a store. Going back to, when this message came to me from God, he said to me very clearly, I don't want you to be a storehouse. I don't want you to have loads of food stored away that you don't give out. So even though there are some times when I really worry that I'm not going to have enough food to feed the families that are coming to us, that's never been the case, and I always have had enough food. But I don't want to become a storehouse. I do want to be able to give people the freshest food possible. So I don't actually engage with the end of day food collections that a lot of other people can do, which are really good. And it's nothing, I'm not knocking it, but for our charity, my aim has always been to give the freshest possible food. So I buy fresh every week so that they get the best possible length of time to use that food.
Yeah. You've said a couple of times that your inspiration from this was you heard from God. We've got listeners that have a faith in Christ, that have would understand that language. Someone who maybe doesn't understand that, because I know Hope Baptist, you're not swinging off the chandeliers up there. It's an ordinary church in Plymouth made of ordinary people. How did that take place? Can I ask that? Is that too personal?
No. I mean, it was just basically, time of quiet. I've been a churchgoer nearly all my life. I got baptised by Andrew in 2014, so I gave my life then to Christ in a full immersion, and it was just a time of quiet. It was just a voice in my head. It was just a feeling that I had within myself that there was more I could be doing. At the time I was running the team at Hope Baptist for the soup run, so I was already quite involved with handling food and being able to help local people. But there was just this feeling within me, this voice in my head, you can do more. There's something else I have planned for you. And that's where it came from. It was one of those actual 3 a.m. moments that people talk about. It's just when you get this voice in your head and you think, where's that come from? Yeah. But you know in your heart where it's come from.
Those 3 a.m. moments. I heard somebody once say, a pastor from Reading, you can actually, kept waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to pray. And in the end said to the Lord, why do you keep waking me up in the middle of the night to pray? And the answer was, well, you're not talking to me during the day.
Yes, that's a very good point. I'm sure that God would agree with you on that one, especially in my case.
Yeah, well, like you said you're a busy person, and that's often the way. Busy people serve a lot, and there's those quiet moments. You're in your own case coming out convalescing from your illness. Time to hear the voice of God quietly inside.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what happened.
Wonderful. Tell us again, Maddie, how can people directly get to support your charity, Provide Devon? And we'll finish the interview on that.
Just either by financially making a donation to us through our website, or by going to any of your local co-ops and dropping in some tinned products into our boxes. And of course, please contact us on our email address or phone us if you want to make a donation or want to talk to us any more about helping.
And all of that, your email address and everything else on your website. And
Yes.
We tend not to give you out website addresses anymore. Just go to your favourite search engine and search for Provide Devon. Maddie Bailey, thank you ever so much for coming into the studio today.
Lovely. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Ian.
It's been a pleasure having you in. Maybe you can update us in 6 months' time or so. Come back on the show.
Lovely. I'd love to do that. Thank you.
That would be great. So if you've missed any of the interview, or if you want to listen again, or if you want to share this, check our Listen Again page on our website, www.crossrhythms.co.uk/Plymouth. You can get this and so much more content on the Cross Rhythms website. And thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back again 11 o'clock every weekday. Catch you next time on Community Matters.